The desperate signal. The skies over Luminara burned. Once magnificent crystal spires crumbled under orbital bombardment as the Vex Imperium's warships methodically destroyed everything the Luminarans had built over millennia. Citizens fled through the streets, their four-limbed forms moving with desperate speed as debris rained from above. In the central communications hub, first speaker Talia surveyed the devastation through tear-filled eyes. Her translucent skin, normally shimmering with calm blue bioluminescence, now pulsed angry red with fear and desperation. "How many cities remain?" she asked, her voice barely audible over the distant explosions. Science Director Orion checked his holographic display, his long fingers trembling. "3 major population centers still stand, Speaker. The rest." He couldn't finish the sentence. Talia closed her eyes. The Luminarans were a peaceful species, their civilization built on scientific advancement and artistic expression. For 10,000 cycles, they had explored the cosmos, cataloging stars and establishing diplomatic relations with neighboring worlds. Never had they faced such brutality, such overwhelming force. The Vex Imperium had appeared at the edge of their system just 14 rotations ago. No warnings, no demands, just immediate, devastating attack. Their black ships, angular and predatory, had disabled Luminara's orbital defenses within hours. "Commander Lyra, what options remain?" Talia asked, turning to her military advisor. Lyra stood rigid, her ceremonial armor, never before used in actual combat, scorched from a recent escape. "We have no options, Speaker. Our defense forces are decimated. The evacuation ships we managed to launch were hunted down within minutes." She paused. "The Vex want our world. And they want no Luminarans on it." Silence fell over the command center as the terrible truth settled upon them. Extinction loomed. "There may be one possibility," said Orion suddenly, his voice hushed. "One desperate chance." All eyes turned to him. "The humans." The room erupted in murmurs. Humans, the species from the distant solar system, known throughout the galaxy as unpredictable, resourceful, and terrifyingly effective warriors. "They're just stories," someone objected. "Exaggerated tales." "No," said Orion firmly. "They're real. Our Deep Space Observatory made contact with their outposts 3 cycles ago. We chose not to pursue relations due to their reputation." Talia's bioluminescence flickered thoughtfully. The stories about humans were troubling, a young species that had survived multiple extinction-level events on their homeworld, who had rapidly advanced from primitive technology to interstellar travel in a fraction of the time it took other species. Beings who carried warfare in their blood, whose history was written in conflict. "Can we reach them?" she asked. Orion nodded. "Our quantum entanglement transmitter remains functional. If we direct all remaining power to it, we could send a distress signal to their nearest outpost." Commander Lyra stepped forward, her expression grave. "Speaker, if the stories are true, inviting humans here might be exchanging one predator for another." A tremendous explosion rocked the building, sending dust cascading from the ceiling. Distant screams echoed through the corridors. "We have no choice," Talia said firmly. "Prepare the transmission." As technicians worked frantically to reconfigure the transmitter, Talia composed their message. Not merely a distress call, but an invitation that would echo across the stars, calling forth creatures that many civilizations feared more than they feared the Vex. "Transmission ready, Speaker," announced Orion. Talia placed her hand on the activation crystal. "To all human forces," she began, her voice steadied despite her fear. "This is First Speaker Talia of Luminara. Our world faces annihilation by the Vex Imperium. We have heard tales of your species' strength and fighting spirit. We appeal to your sense of justice. Help us, and Luminara will forever stand as your ally." She paused, then added words that would change the course of galactic history. The Vex believe themselves invincible. Show them they are wrong. With a pulse of energy, the message shot across the void, a desperate plea flung toward Earth and its colonies. As the last of their power reserves drained, the communication center went dark, emergency lights casting eerie shadows across worried faces. "Now we wait," said Talia softly. They didn't wait long. 3 rotations later, as Vex ground forces began their final assault on the capital city, strange energy readings appeared at the system's edge. The Vex commanders, initially unconcerned, dispatched scout ships to investigate. None returned. Deep in their bunker, the remaining Luminaran leadership watched in awe as their long-range sensors detected a massive fleet dropping out of faster-than-light travel directly behind the Vex armada. Ships of unfamiliar design, bristling with weapons systems unlike anything they had seen before. "Are those human vessels?" whispered Commander Lyra. Before anyone could answer, their emergency communication system crackled to life. A voice, strong, confident, undeniably human, filled the room. "This is Admiral Helena Frost of the United Earth Defense Force. We received your message, Luminara." A pause. "Hold on. Help has arrived." As the Luminarans watched their sensor displays in disbelief, the human fleet engaged the Vex ships with shocking ferocity. Smaller craft swarmed between capital ships like angry insects, while massive dreadnoughts unleashed weaponry that tore through Vex shields as if they were paper. "They fight like nothing I've ever seen," breathed Commander Lyra, professional assessment mixing with horror and admiration. Talia watched silently, her bioluminescence now pulsing with a complex mixture of relief, hope, and dread. The deadliest beings in the galaxy had answered their call. And as she observed the brutal efficiency with which the humans dismantled the once unstoppable Vex fleet, she wondered what new chapter they had opened in galactic history. The humans had come. The Vex were learning what it meant to face Earth's wrath. And the galaxy would never be the same again. Terran response. Admiral Helena Frost stood on the bridge of the UEDS Thunderchild, her expression grim as she studied the tactical display. The Vex Imperium forces scattered before the human fleet, regrouping behind Luminara's largest moon. "They didn't expect resistance," observed her executive officer, Commander Julian Reed, his dark eyes narrowed. "They thought this would be an easy conquest." "Their mistake," Frost replied coolly, brushing a strand of silver hair from her face. At 57, she was a veteran of the Mars Rebellion and the Proxima Blockade, battles that had forged Earth's military into the fearsome force it was today. "Status of ground operations?" she asked. "Colonel Naveen Singh reports his Marines have secured a landing zone near the capital," Reed answered. "The Vex ground forces are putting up heavy resistance, but they're outmatched in close combat." Frost nodded. Earth's soldiers, enhanced with neural implants, powered armor, and centuries of warfare embedded in their training simulations, were proving devastating against the methodical but inflexible Vex tactics. "Admiral," called the communications officer, "incoming transmission from Earth Command." The holographic display flickered, revealing the stern visage of General Diana Rodriguez, Supreme Commander of Earth's military forces. Her expression was characteristically severe. "Admiral Frost, situation report. We've broken the Vex orbital blockade and established ground control in key areas," Frost reported. "The Luminaran leadership is secure. Civilian casualties are high, but we're setting up evacuation corridors." Rodriguez's eyes narrowed. "And our losses?" "The Dauntless and the Reprisal took heavy damage. 417 confirmed casualties so far." A moment of silence honored the fallen before Rodriguez continued. "The Security Council is concerned about potential escalation. The Vex Imperium controls 17 star systems. This could be the start of a prolonged conflict." "With respect, General," Frost replied, "they started this conflict. We're finishing it." Rodriguez's expression softened marginally. That's why we sent you, Helena. The Council has authorized full intervention. The 6th and 9th fleets are en route to your position. You have 72 hours until they arrive. Understood, General. After the transmission ended, Frost turned to Reed. We need to talk to the Luminarans. I want to know everything about the Vex, their capabilities, their command structure, their vulnerabilities. 20 minutes later, Frost and Reed stood in a hastily converted command center within the Luminaran capital's underground complex. First Speaker Talia and her advisors regarded the humans with a mixture of gratitude and apprehension. Your intervention saved our people, Talia said, her skin glowing gentle blue. But the Vex will return with greater numbers. They never abandon a conquest. Neither do we abandon allies, Frost assured her. But I need to understand what we're facing. Science Director Orion activated a holographic display showing the known Vex territories. Their empire spans 17 star systems with approximately 30 inhabited worlds. Most were peaceful civilizations like ours, conquered within the last century. Their technology? Reed inquired. Advanced, but not superior to yours, Commander Lyra interjected. Their advantage has always been numbers and brutality, not innovation. Frost studied the display thoughtfully. And their homeworld? Helixer Prime, said Orion, highlighting a heavily fortified system at the heart of Vex territory. Ruled by the Grand Imperator Zyrex, who claims divine right to dominate all lesser species. Charming, muttered Reed. A human intelligence officer approached with a data pad. Admiral, we've intercepted Vex communications. They're calling for reinforcements from their central fleet. Estimated arrival, 48 hours. Frost's eyes hardened. Then we have 48 hours to prepare our welcome. The next 2 days saw feverish activity across Luminara. Human engineers worked alongside Luminaran scientists to enhance the planet's defensive capabilities. Marine squads trained Luminaran volunteers in basic combat techniques. Medics from both species collaborated to treat the wounded. Colonel Naveen Singh, commanding the ground forces, established a perimeter around the 3 remaining major cities. His troops, in their powered vanguard armor, became a familiar sight to the Luminarans, who watched in fascination as these aliens from a distant world moved with lethal precision. They're adapting to our gravity and atmosphere remarkably well, noted Commander Lyra as she observed a training session with Singh. The colonel smiled grimly. Humans adapt. It's what we do best. Your soldiers fight with such intensity, Lyra said carefully. As if each battle is personal. Singh looked at her, his brown eyes serious. For us, it is. Every human carries the memory of Earth's violent history, how close we came to destroying ourselves before we reached the stars. We fight so hard because we know the alternative. As the deadline approached, Admiral Frost gathered her command staff aboard the Thunderchild. The holographic tactical display showed the approaching Vex reinforcements, a fleet 3 times the size of their original force. They're expecting a conventional defense, Frost explained, outlining her strategy. We'll give them something else entirely. Commander Reed raised an eyebrow. The Luminara Gambit? Frost nodded. With modifications. The Luminarans have provided the technology. We're providing the audacity. As the massive Vex armada emerged from faster-than-light travel, they found only debris and disabled ships where they expected to find resistance. Confused, they pushed forward toward Luminara, sensors scanning for the human fleet. They didn't detect the thousands of stealth mines deployed along their approach vector until the first detonations rippled through their formation. They didn't see the human attack craft, modified with Luminaran cloaking technology, until they launched their missiles from point-blank range. And they didn't anticipate Admiral Frost's dreadnoughts emerging from Luminara's sun, using its radiation to mask their heat signatures until they opened fire on the Vex flagship. The battle raged for hours, the void around Luminara illuminated by weapons fire and exploding ships. On the planet below, Luminaran citizens watched the sky, holding their breath as their fate was decided above. In the end, it was not even close. The human fleet, though outnumbered, fought with devastating creativity and coordination. The Vex, accustomed to overwhelming frightened, inferior opponents, found themselves outmaneuvered at every turn. When the Vex flagship finally went dark, Admiral Frost opened a channel to the remaining enemy vessels. Her message was brief and chilling. Return to your Imperator. Tell him what happened here. Tell him that Luminara is under Earth's protection now. And if he wants a war with humanity, we will give him one he will not survive. As the defeated Vex ships retreated, Frost turned to Reed. Now for the hard part. Ma'am? Diplomacy. She sighed. The Security Council will want a formal alliance with the Luminarans. And someone has to explain to the rest of the galaxy that humans have officially joined the interstellar community. Reed smiled slightly. After what they just witnessed, I imagine they'll be very attentive listeners. On Luminara, celebrations erupted as the news of victory spread. But in her chambers, First Speaker Talia watched the human ships with complex emotions swirling within her. They had saved her world, yes, but in doing so, they had revealed themselves as exactly what the stories claimed, the most formidable warriors the galaxy had ever seen. And now they were here to stay. Counterattack. The UEDS Thunderchild's war room hummed with activity as Admiral Frost and Colonel Singh finalized their strategy. Holograms displayed Vex fleet movements across neighboring systems, the enemy was regrouping, and intelligence suggested a massive counteroffensive was coming. The Security Council has approved Operation Spearhead, Frost announced to her assembled commanders. We're taking the fight to Vex territory. Captain Valentina Sokolov, commander of the Special Operations Vessel Shadow, raised an eyebrow. Preemptive strike? Precisely, replied Singh, highlighting 3 key Vex outposts. These supply depots fuel their war machine. We cripple these, we buy time for a proper defense network around Luminara. First Speaker Talia and Commander Lyra observed silently from the side, their luminescence betraying their unease. This aggressive strategy was foreign to their peaceful nature, yet they recognized its necessity. Admiral, Talia ventured, my scientists have adapted our phase shift technology for your vessels. It should allow small ships to bypass Vex detection grids. Frost nodded appreciatively. Commander Lyra, would your pilots be willing to guide our strike teams? Your knowledge of local space would be invaluable. Lyra straightened, her glow intensifying. We will fight alongside you, Admiral. Within hours, joint human Luminaran strike teams launched from the Thunderchild. Captain Sokolov's Shadow led the assault group, its hull modified with Luminaran technology that bent light around the vessel, rendering it nearly invisible. Approaching Vex Outpost Krell 9, reported navigator Tomas Reyes, his hands dancing across the controls. Luminaran phase shift engaged. Beside him, Luminaran pilot Varis monitored the energy fluctuations. Maintaining field integrity at 93%. We are, how do you say it? Ghosting? Sokolov smiled tightly. Close enough. All teams, prepare for insertion. The Shadow slipped past Vex patrols undetected, followed by 5 smaller craft. As they approached the massive supply depot, a sprawling structure built into an asteroid, Sokolov activated the tactical display. Team Alpha targets the reactor core. Bravo disables communications. Charlie secures intel. Delta and Echo plant charges on fuel reserves. Lieutenant Daiyu Zhou, commanding the ground teams, checked her powered armor systems. Understood, Captain. Weapons free? Confirmed. Minimize casualties, but don't take chances. These aren't civilians. As the teams deployed, Varys whispered to Reyes, "Your warriors move like water, flowing, then striking. Our histories speak of human ferocity, but not this precision." Reyes shrugged. Earth's history taught us that winning isn't about being the strongest. It's about being the smartest predator in the food chain. The operation proceeded with surgical efficiency. Lieutenant Zhou's teams moved through the facility like ghosts, neutralizing Vex security forces before they could raise alarms. The few firefights that erupted were brief and decisive, human combat enhancements proving superior to Vex armor. Commander Lyra, coordinating from the Thunderchild, watched the operation's progress with growing respect. "They fight as if they've done this for centuries," she observed. Admiral Frost's expression remained impassive. "We have. Just on Earth, against each other. Now we have better targets." Simultaneous strikes hit 2 other Vex installations, crippling their logistics chain. As the teams extracted, Vex reinforcements arrived, only to find evacuated facilities rigged to explode. The message was clear: humans didn't just defend, they punished. 3 days later, Grand Imperator Xyrex summoned his war council on Helixer Prime. The once confident commanders now stood nervously before their ruler, whose tentacled form writhed with barely contained rage. "Explain," Xyrex demanded, his voice resonating through the chamber, "how primitives from an insignificant world have humiliated the Imperium twice." Supreme Commander Vec stepped forward, mandibles clicking nervously. "These humans are unlike other species we've encountered, Imperator. They fight with unexpected strategies and concerning ferocity. They are mammals," Xyrex hissed dismissively. "Short-lived and emotional. Deploy the subjugator fleet. Scorch their worlds until nothing remains." Unbeknownst to the Vex leadership, a Luminaran phase-shifted probe captured their entire war council. Hours later, Admiral Frost reviewed the intelligence with growing concern. "The subjugator fleet carries planet-killer weapons," she informed First Speaker Talia. "They're escalating beyond conventional warfare." Talia's bioluminescence pulsed anxiously. "Can your forces withstand such an assault?" "Not conventionally," Frost admitted. "But conventional isn't how humans win wars." She turned to Colonel Singh. "Contact Earth Command. I want the Prometheus Protocol authorized." Singh's eyes widened slightly. "The Council has never approved its use, Admiral. They will now." 2 weeks later, as the massive Vex subjugator fleet approached Luminaran space, they detected unusual stellar activity. Scanners showed human ships performing complex maneuvers around Luminara's sun, deploying unidentified technology at key points. Supreme Commander Vec ordered caution, but Imperator Xyrex, observing from his command ship, demanded immediate attack. The subjugator fleet advanced, weapons charging for planetary bombardment. They never got the chance to fire. The space around them suddenly distorted as human vessels activated the Prometheus Protocol, a weaponized application of Earth's experimental gravity manipulation technology. The fabric of space-time warped, creating a controlled microsingularity that caught the heart of the Vex fleet in its grasp. Capital ships were torn apart as gravitational forces exceeded their structural limits. Others were flung off course, crashing into each other or spiraling away from the battlefield. Only the Imperator's flagship, protected by its advanced shields, remained operational, though severely damaged. Through emergency channels, Admiral Frost addressed the Imperator directly. "Your fleet is destroyed, Xyrex. Your supply lines are severed. We could continue this war, hunting down every Vex ship and colony until your species is a memory. Or you can surrender, withdraw from Luminaran space permanently, and release all conquered worlds in this sector." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Consider carefully. Humans have a long history of extinction-level events. We've survived them all. I'm not certain the Vex would be as fortunate. For several tense minutes, no response came. Then, the Imperator's flagship turned away, limping toward Vex territory. Colonel Singh allowed himself a small smile. I believe that's what we used to call unconditional surrender. Frost's expression remained grave. No. That was fear. And fear is never a stable foundation for peace. As the Vex retreated, celebrations erupted across Luminera. In the capital, citizens gathered to honor both their saviors and their own fallen. Human and Luminaran stood side by side, two species united by shared sacrifice. First speaker Talia addressed the assembled crowd, her bioluminescence shining brightly. Today marks a new chapter in our history. The Vex sought to extinguish our light, but instead they revealed a greater truth, that in this vast, often cruel universe, we are not alone in our desire for justice and freedom. She gestured to Admiral Frost and the human delegation. Our friends from Earth have shown us that strength without wisdom is merely brutality, but strength guided by compassion is the true path to the stars. Later, in private chambers, Talia and Frost discussed the future. The Security Council proposes a formal alliance, Frost explained. Technology exchange, mutual defense, cultural programs. Earth is ready to join the galactic community properly. Talia's glow pulsed thoughtfully. And yet, I sense your concern. Frost looked out at the stars visible through the crystal dome above. Humanity saved your world, yes. But we've revealed ourselves now. The galaxy knows what we are, what we can do. She turned back to Talia. Not everyone will see us as saviors. Perhaps not, Talia acknowledged. But before you came, we believed we faced extinction. Now we see possibilities. Her glow intensified. That is what humans truly bring to the galaxy, Admiral. Not just your strength, but your endless capacity for finding a way forward when others see only ending. Frost allowed herself a rare smile. Let's hope that's the legacy we build. Not what we destroyed, but what we create together. As Earth's ships maintained their protective formation around Luminera, news of the Vex defeat spread across the galaxy. Species that had suffered under Vex expansion watched with hope. Others, with their own empires and ambitions, observed with growing concern. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage. And nothing would ever be the same. A new order. 6 months after the defeat of the Vex subjugator fleet, the galactic landscape had transformed. The former Vex territories had fragmented, some worlds declaring independence, others forming defensive coalitions. At the center of this changing cosmos stood an unprecedented alliance, Earth and Luminera. The newly christened UEDS Peacekeeper hovered in orbit above Helix Station, a neutral diplomatic outpost hastily constructed for interspecies negotiations. Admiral Frost stood at the viewport, watching various alien vessels dock at the sprawling structure. 17 species confirmed for the summit, reported Commander Reed, reviewing his data pad. Including 3 who've never engaged in multilateral diplomacy before. They're curious, Frost mused. And cautious. Can you blame them? No one expected humans to neutralize the Vex in a single campaign. The door slid open, revealing Colonel Singh in formal dress uniform. It's time, Admiral. The diplomatic chamber of Helix Station buzzed with dozens of alien languages as representatives from across the sector gathered. Some species were familiar to humans through prior exploration, others were entirely new. All watched with wary fascination as the Earth delegation entered. First speaker Talia, serving as mediator, called the summit to order. Her bioluminescence pulsed with serene authority as she addressed the gathering. We stand at a pivotal moment. The Vex Imperium's expansion has been halted, creating both opportunity and uncertainty. Today, we begin shaping what comes next. For hours, representatives debated security concerns, trade routes, and territorial claims. The specter of the Vex still loomed, though weakened, their empire retained significant military capacity. But something else dominated the undercurrents of discussion: humanity's role in the new galactic order. During a recess, Admiral Frost found herself approached by an imposing figure, Ambassador Krall of the Tarvos hegemony, a militaristic species known for their expansionist tendencies. "Admiral," rumbled Krall, his leathery skin shifting with subtle threat displays, "your species has demonstrated impressive capabilities." "We protected an innocent world from annihilation," Frost replied evenly. "Nothing more." "Did you?" Krall's compound eyes gleamed. "Or did you establish military presence in a strategic sector while showcasing weapons that could threaten every spacefaring civilization?" Before Frost could respond, another voice interrupted, the melodic tones of Delegate Sephira from the ancient Quildari consensus. "Ambassador Krall sees threats because threats are what the Tarvos understand best," Sephira observed, her iridescent wings shimmering. "Perhaps instead of questioning humanity's intentions, we should question why the hegemony finds defensive action so provocative?" The tension was broken by an urgent alert. Communications Officer Lee rushed to Admiral Frost's side. "Emergency transmission from the Peacekeeper. Long-range sensors have detected anomalous energy signatures near the outer perimeter." Frost excused herself, striding quickly to the command center with Singh and Reed. The tactical display showed multiple unidentified vessels approaching Helix Station using advanced stealth technology. "Pattern matches Vex Auxiliary Fleet," confirmed the sensor operator. "But they're operating without standard Imperium protocols." Frost's eyes narrowed. "Rogue elements?" "Possible," said Singh. "Imperator Xyrex's hold on power has been tenuous since their defeat." Reed checked the defensive readiness. "Station shields are at minimum capacity, they weren't expecting threats during a peace summit." The decision took Frost mere seconds. "Deploy the Peacekeeper and alert our escort vessels. Maximum defensive posture, but no aggressive moves unless fired upon." As the Earth vessels moved to intercept, the diplomatic chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives demanded explanations, some accusing Earth of staging the threat to manipulate negotiations. First Speaker Talia called for order. "Our sensors confirm approaching vessels using Vex signatures. This is not a human deception." Ambassador Krall pushed forward. "If these are truly Vex forces, then the Tarvos hegemony demands joint command of the defense. We will not trust our safety to untested humans." The standoff might have escalated had the situation not suddenly changed. The command center view screen activated, revealing a familiar face, Supreme Commander Vec of the Vex Imperium, his mandibles clicking with nervous energy. "This is Commander Vec addressing Helix Station. The vessels approaching are renegades led by the former subjugator General Mectis. They reject Imperator Xyrex's ceasefire and seek to reignite conflict." Frost studied Vec's demeanor carefully. "Why warn us, Commander?" "Because Mectis plans to destroy the station with all representatives aboard, then frame Earth for the attack. His goal is to trigger a pan-galactic war against humanity." The revelation stunned the chamber into silence. Then Ambassador Krall spoke, his voice uncharacteristically subdued. "How do we know this isn't Vex deception?" "You don't," admitted Vec. "But I am approaching with a single vessel to assist in defense. As proof of Imperator Xyrex's commitment to peace." The next hours tested the nascent alliance. Under Admiral Frost's coordination, Earth vessels combined with Vex ship and defensive forces from several other species to intercept Mectis's renegades. The battle was brief but intense. The rogue Vex fought with the desperation of zealots. In the command center, representatives from a dozen worlds watched as human officers coordinated the defense with remarkable efficiency, integrating alien vessels into their tactical framework without hesitation. When the last renegade ship was neutralized, a new mood permeated Helix Station, not fear of human power, but appreciation for human restraint. They had defended all species equally, shared tactical control with others, and demonstrated discipline rather than dominance. As discussions resumed, Frost found herself approached by Delegate Sephra and, surprisingly, Ambassador Krall. "The Quildari Consensus has observed your actions carefully, Admiral," said Sephra. "You had opportunity to assert control, yet chose cooperation." Krall's threat displays had subsided. "The Tarvos respect strength, but we value predictability in potential rivals. Today, your species has shown its nature." "And what nature is that, Ambassador?" asked Frost. "You are guardians," Krall stated simply. "Fierce when threatened, lethal when provoked, but measured in victory. This, we can work with." The summit concluded 3 days later with the signing of the Helix Accords, establishing mutual defense protocols, trade regulations, and dispute resolution mechanisms. Earth and Luminara stood as founding members of this new interstellar framework, joined by 14 other worlds. As the representatives departed, First Speaker Talia and Admiral Frost shared a final moment on the observation deck, watching the diverse ships disperse to their home systems. "When we sent our desperate message into the void," Talia reflected, her bioluminescence gentle, "we feared we were summoning monsters to fight monsters." Frost smiled slightly. "Perhaps you were." "Perhaps," agreed Talia. "But monsters who choose to protect rather than conquer, who understand that strength carries responsibility, those are not monsters at all. Those are heroes." As the Peacekeeper prepared for departure, Admiral Frost drafted her final report to Earth Command. The document would become foundational to human interstellar policy for generations to come. "We have revealed ourselves to the galaxy, our strength, our technology, our potential. Some fear us. Others seek our protection. All now watch us carefully. The path ahead requires not just military readiness, but diplomatic wisdom. Earth saved one world from extinction. In doing so, we have assumed a role we never sought but cannot avoid, the defenders of those who cannot defend themselves. The deadliest beings in the galaxy, yes, but guided by principles that elevate power into protection. This is humanity's charge now. Not to conquer the stars, but to ensure they remain free for all." As Earth's fleet set course for home, news of their deeds spread across countless worlds. In quiet conversations on distant planets, in the whispered legends of oppressed species, a new hope took root, that when darkness threatened, when all seemed lost, the humans would come. And nothing in the galaxy, no empire, no tyrant, no force, could stand against them.